Males of Reddit, when was the absolute worst time you had a random boner? I was in high school and we had swimming. I was in Speedos and walking along the edge of the pool when it decided to pitch a tent. Only this tent had no walls. In between me and my towel was a girl I liked who would have seen everything. There was no hiding it. 2 years later I was still too embarrassed to ask her on a date. You just reminded me. In lifeguard training, one of the younger, shorter male students had to do a mock rescue of this tall, fit senior girl who was undeniably a 10 out of 10. Unbelievably gorgeous, and she's in this tight bikini as he's saving her, and yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Yoga class. I was near at the front of the class wearing gym shorts, and for some reason my body decided to pitch the biggest tent it could. Like, this was the most hard I've ever gotten. I wasn't sexually aroused or anything. My body just decided that this was the perfect time for an erection. Cue several strange looks as I walked past everyone trying to reach the exit on the opposite side of the room while failing miserably to cover up my boner. I stayed in the bathroom for like 10 minutes until it finally subsided. Stayed in the bathroom for like 10 minutes until it finally subsided. So 3 times. On the ski lift. I was an idiot and said to my friends, damn, I just got a random boner and I didn't know that there was a younger girl on the lift. I have 2 roommates. I am consistently always in my undies. No big deal. I have a dog. I am also an early bird. Well, one night, I went to bed to a dark and quiet house. Fell asleep, but woke up with a random boner because my dog had to pee. Walked out to the living room to let my dog out, and apparently, one of my roommates, middle-aged, single female, decided to have her 2 adult daughters, son-in-law, and friend over for a late-night visit. I didn't realize people were over until it was too late, so I just committed to letting Castor outside and pretending like I was too groggy to care. No one said a word. Bent down to pet a woman's dog. She had nice legs. Suffice to say I couldn't stand up right away. She probably thought, why is this guy petting my dog for so long? How nice were the dog's legs? Learning tango in ballroom dancing class. And the girl I danced with kept telling me that I should get closer to her. I dated my now wife when I accidentally had a boner for her. We were 15 on a band trip to Six Flags. I remember she was wearing a bikini under her clothes and I had shorts and was gonna take off my shirt when we get off the bus. She and I were so into each other, but we did not want to make the first move. So we were dating but not really. Well, she took off her shirt and her shorts and this bikini. Man, I remember still after all these years. I had a hard-on right there and it was visible. She asked me if I was gonna get up and walk with her, and I told her to go ahead cause I felt sick. I was literally fighting the tug-of-war battle when she was trying to get me to stand up. When I did, she noticed. She said, "Oh, I see. Well, honestly, if I was a boy I would have a boner for you too." Wait, that's not what I meant. We just asked each other out then and there and enjoyed our time together still. Holding a weeping woman who I was coming to realize I was in love with during a funeral wake. I moved her to my side, but I think she knew. Morning wood. I distinctly remember this. I was 12 years old, doing a physical to get into middle school, and as she was checking for a hernia, it just popped up. I was so embarrassed and she was just like, "It's normal for your age." God, I hated going to the doctor for a few years after that. At least she reassured you about the size. Strapped to a gurney in a pool for a first aid demonstration surrounded by 30 people. The instructor said, "Call a lumberjack, we got wood." I wish I had the presence of mind to make a joke about them standing around in a circle checking out a boy's penis. Whenever I saw my ex crying I got horny. It felt incredible wrong every time. I still remember this story more than a decade later. I was in 7th grade social studies class and I sat next to this girl I had a crush on. I was wearing windbreakers, bad move, and it just came up out of nowhere. 30 seconds later the teacher called on me to write on the board. I had to lie and say I didn't do the homework. Get a 0 on the assignment just to save myself from embarrassment. I'm sure he would have understood if I told him after class, but I was in 7th grade and just way too embarrassed. A few years ago at my niece and nephew's birthday party, my brother-in-law's younger cousin came. She was a few years older than me, and when I was like 13, I had the biggest crush on her, and when we went to a cookout at her parents' house one Labor Day, I asked her out. She was flattered, but she was 18 already, so she gave me a hug and let me down nice. Fast forward to the birthday party. I hadn't seen her in a while, and when she came she hugged and exchanged pleasantries with me. She introduced me to her husband. I never had met him, and as I shook his hand, I was at full mast because I had just hugged her. Not as bad as some of the stories here, but I kinda wanted to die when it happened. I was walking to the subway with my crush after our last exam, and as we were walking it just randomly popped up. I wasn't even thinking about doing anything sexual with her. I was just happy to be with her in that moment. Just glad that she didn't notice, or she's too polite to have said anything. Which she definitely is. I definitely would have jumped off a building if she noticed and got the wrong message. For whatever reason, I always get boners when I'm doing math. In calculus, I would always pop one when doing problems. And by the time the class ended, I always had a rager. I had to tuck that bad boy up through my waistband just to get out of class. So, you're sexually attracted to numbers? Yep. And ironically, I've never done 69. Not me, but the student presenter for the Veterans Day program at my high school a few years ago had a raging hard-on in front of not only the school but all of the veterans that showed up, while wearing basketball shorts. At raging waters while talking to a hot German chick. I was 15. I was on a date with a girl. We were hanging out at a social beach city. I was wearing a t-shirt and swim trunks, and she was wearing shorts and a really tight top. We were walking to the boardwalk side by side. I got in front and turned around to talk to her. I was completely floored by how good she looked in the morning sunlight. Before I knew it, I felt it coming, so I sat her down right then and there on the sidewalk. I told her I took a step wrong and hurt my knee. History of knee injuries. I guess it wasn't random, as it was poorly timed. Not mine. My bunkmate in boot woke up the first morning with a rager of 1. The guy just looked at him and told him to stand down, son. We don't salute with that. College English class. I was called up to present some project. I tried to hide it. My mushroom tip was clearly visible to the entire class, peeking its way from my belt buckle. It was and still is my worst memory that haunts me all these years later. Funny enough, I'm not the first person on Reddit to tell of this story. Somebody else beat me to it. And I had to read a long description from the point of view of someone else seeing my dick that day in a comment section just like this one. That story of someone else seeing my dick got more karma points than I've ever gotten on a single comment. So good for him, her, I guess. Hospital bed blankets seem to be designed to accentuate boners. I had oral surgery when I was in high school. The surgeon was a very attractive man. Before I was anesthetized, he described possibly having to straddle me in order to properly perform surgery. That's when my whole family saw me get an erection. I think the worst time to have boners is when you really have to pee. It happened most recently last year when I was at a road trip in a neighboring country with my class. I really had to go, and eventually I got it. Horrible feeling, less said uncomfortable. Just right at the end of my grade 7 all-boys class. I could hear the teacher telling us what to prepare for next class, and I felt it coming on, like really, right before we all have to stand up. Putting a binder over it is not as seamless as described. Best friend female was the touchy-feeling type. Lots of random hugs. Always stood really close. Liked to cuddle when watching movies. She also had a boyfriend at basically all points in time. I wasn't really into her like that. We were just really good friends is all. Anyway, one evening we're hanging out watching TV and she stretches out with her head on my lap. No big deal because she does it all the time. As she's moving around getting comfortable, I start getting hard. I was wearing sweatpants, so it's not like there's anything keeping the guy in check. She feels me tensing up trying to make it stop, and when she turns to look at me it goes full mast. Pressing against the back of her head, she gets mad, leaves, eventually stops talking to me. What an idiot your friend was. I mean, even if an inanimate object was moving around and pressing your groin, you'd be bound to eventually get a hard-on. 7th grade gym class. I was wearing jogging pants in PE, health. We alternated. This was health day and we were studying human physiology and reproduction. At the time it took less than a breeze for full attention from below. Talking about female anatomy was way more than enough. My super cute, freshly out of college teacher asked me to stand up and write on the chalkboard. We had a great relationship, so I pretended I didn't hear her while silently willing my problem to please for the love of God go down. It would not. She called me again and we made eye contact. The rest of the classroom was looking my way and she saw on my face that this was not a good time. Thankfully she let me off and called on a female to do the job. My girlfriend's grandma's funeral. When I was in middle school, it happened so often that I deliberately started wearing baggy pants and underwear that was one size too small in order to hide them. I fell asleep on a couch and I woke up with my stepsisters sitting on both sides of me. I was full erect and wearing thin shorts. I was 16 and they were 15 and 14. I only knew 'cause I caught one looking. I've seen enough porn to know how that must have turned out. What are you doing, stepbro? During high school basketball game, the only time I ever thought, please, coach, don't put me in. Damn cheerleaders. 7th grade Spanish class. Had a random teacher needed someone to come to the front of class for an example conversation. I didn't know what to do, so just went up there. Everyone was looking at my waistline, holding back snickers. Then it went down in about 5 seconds, which got a few audible laughs. It was horrible. Age 10 to 18. On a 6H long bus ride, beside a pretty girl, I slept and woke up to a raging boner. The girl was looking at it, then turned her face to the window, and I don't know what was her thoughts, but I guess what a disgusting piece of crap. I doubt that. She was probably embarrassed you caught her looking. I often get boners if I sit for a long time. I was sitting with my wife watching TV, and Richard Simmons came on. She felt my boner and got mad because she thought Richard Simmons was turning me on. Went to visit a girlfriend at her university. We went for a swim in the indoor pool as she was training for a half Ironman, and seeing her body when she got out of the water got me so hard for so long I had to feign a sudden need to do about 20 more lengths. Hopefully nobody underwater had goggles. Then in the showers afterwards I had a repeat just thinking about it. Luckily nobody was around. Was she just a girlfriend? Or was she your girlfriend? Church, school, work, you name it. Random boners general don't pop up when you want them to. As a female I just get an uncontrollable urge to fart at those places. Walking back from school in front of girls from the same school. On stage during a debate on patriarchy. That's just asserting dominance. Because patriarchy. I was in the middle of receiving a blowjob when I got the call from my uncle telling me my dad had died. That's the one I remember the most. Sorry for your loss, man. That blows. 14 years old. One sprang up in the waiting room at the chiropractor just before she called me in. I tried to hide it, but I guess it was somewhat noticeable as I spent the treatment with her telling me how I'm at the age where our bodies would start changing, etc. During pee in shorts. Can't hide it in your waistband if you're playing basketball on the Skins team. While standing behind a podium, finishing up a speech. Worst for me was I had to get a physical in Italy at an any-approved doctor for some work. Of course the doctor was young and cute, and yay, she noticed while examining me and told me she was flattered. However, my friend has a great story. He's an old-school Chicago guy, you know, hanging out on his stoop fighting with the old-school Latin kings, and learned to box at the YMCA. Also at the YMCA he took a swimming class, and back then it was all in the nude. Well, the instructor asked one of the older boys to demonstrate the backstroke, and he swims across the pool with a full-on erection. The instructor quipped, "Next time keep your periscope down. Next time keep your periscope down." But instructor, how am I supposed to see where I'm going? When I was 12 I had a testicle infection. No idea how I got it, but whatever. So I was at the doctor's office and my 60-year-old doctor had to check and make sure it was getting better and all that. But he was also having a college student shadow him. She was a blonde and super hot. So it was my mom, my doctor, my brother and this super hot college chick in this room. I pull my pants down and my doctor gets on one knee so he could look small check. And I just looked up at the blonde and immediately my dick, though this was the most perfect time to get a raging hard on. I grabbed it and tried to hide it, but my pants are down and all I can do is cover it with my hand. Yeah, it didn't work. Her face was straight shock and surprise, not because it was big but because it was happening, and I felt like I wanted to die more than anything. Dude, why was your brother there? To see your teeny weeny. I'd tell everyone I was related to, friends with, to get out of here. Not me, but also kind of me. I honestly didn't realize at what age boys started getting erections. You can imagine my surprise when I opened up the nappy of my firstborn one morning to see his tiny member as hard as a stick. Cleaning around it just felt awkward. I get a boner every day when I am on the train to work. This is because I have to leave very early in the morning. Usually I just place my lunch bag over it though, so it's no problem. My girlfriend at the time was crying about a relative dying. Hugged someone from my family. There was a guy in a school play in middle school that was playing the part of a dead body. Well, not all of him appeared dead. We all had this, during presentations and having the spotlight on us. Not mine but my friends. When we were in grade 8, one of the female teacher asked him to stand up and read the essay. He had a boner but he didn't care about it and just read. I'm pretty sure everyone saw it but nobody mentioned it.